April meeting of the Calvert City Planning Commission. And first, the time is 5:39. And first item of business, we're actually going to recess into a public hearing. So we'll consider ourselves recessed into that public hearing. John, you want to lead us into tonight's info?
Yes. All right. Tonight we have Loves is represented or has an engineer here, Mr. Eggers, who has been working on the development plan for an addition to Love's Country Store and Travel Stops in Calvert. This is a oil change facility that's going on. If you'll notice to the top of your diagram, it's going to be added to the existing tire diagram. It's going to be added to the existing tire changing building. They're going to expand that to add an oil change facility. And as such, because we'd had a couple of small expansions in the past, and because of the nature of where it's located, I just didn't feel comfortable with doing a waiver and thought we'd go ahead and go back and do a development plan, because that also involves our wellhead protection district. So if you're ready, Mr. Eggers, if you come in, you will state your name.
Hello, I'm Nico Eggers.
And raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm the project manager on this. So yes, it is an oil change facility. We do have a couple, we have a catch basin on the addition, as well as a catch basin within the loop pit itself that pumps into a oil water separator. That's going to be newly installed on the site as well. So to help mitigate any seepage into the soil or anything in that manner. As for the other additions, I've probably worked on some of them. It might have been a while, but the project's been back and forth a little bit here and there, so.
The company's applied for, that's in the floodplain, but they've applied for a Lomar F, which is a letter of map amendment or revision based on fill. And so that's in process as we speak. So they're waiting to see if they can get that. If they can get that, that'll pull them out of the floodplain.
Correct. And from what we have, currently the existing building sits outside of the floodplain. It's just getting it reassessed with the addition, because the addition is going to be at the same level of the existing building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the elevation's already there, just getting it listed with the FEMA and the
Exactly.
state. But they have made application for that. Also here today is our water and sewer superintendent director. I'm sure what Mr. Traylor's here, and then Mr. McCann from Rivercrest, who did the review for our wellhead protection, is also here. So
Will the parking lot be extended to the west as well for that bay, for the new bay?
Currently, we're not expanding the parking lot. We are removing, if I remember right, a couple parking spots, but we've run a parking analysis and we still match the requirements.
Okay.
Total, including both auto and truck parking, because both facility or the C-store facilitates the truck parking as well.
On the front page of site plan YSP1, it actually states down the bottom those requirements and what they actually have.
Uh-huh.
So
they should have 102 total. They've got 142.
Does this building have a sprinkler system?
It does not. But the total bay should fall under the requirement for a sprinkler system.
This also is relocating a 320 square foot Connex storage container and they will put fencing around that as well in that area.
These elevations of the existing building or the existing elevations, right?
Correct.
Nothing's gonna change.
Of the C-store, that's correct. We just wanted to, since it had been a few development, or we had missed out on a couple development plans, just so that they were there in case there's any concerns or questions.
That's also utilized for the Lomar.
And what?
That information for the Lomar, the letter of map revision. Now, the one thing that we found in this is the existing dog park that's there actually is sitting in the right of way portion of it is. And so we would ask that as part of this development plan that is moved so that it is totally on the property and not off in the right of way. And I think, where did you say that was going to get located?
Can I point it there?
Sure, yeah.
So speaking with Loves, I got verification. We're looking at relocating it in this area. So that way it's away from the immediate turn radius and also it's accessible to the parking.
So you're gonna have it, it'll be actually west of or on the low side of the entrance.
Correct. Yes, it'll be roughly to the
Oh, no, in the back here.
plan east of where the 3 YA 2.1.
Okay.
Call outs at.
Okay, so over by the drive-in for the Arby's.
Arby's.
Yeah,
Correct.
so it's gonna be in that area. Okay, all right.
Are there other remodels or anything going
Yeah.
on? This is.
Not as far as I'm aware of.
The other remodels were actually through modifications to their previous, because they were small. Yeah,
Okay.
there was, one was a bathroom or showers and one was, I think, a cooler system that went in, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So walk-in, that's what, yeah, and so that, it was one of those situations where they were minor. But this one involving the Wellhead Protection District. I couldn't do that one as minor.
So you're gonna have a buried tank to collect the oil, and then you're gonna have a containment system around it will hold that amount if that tank did fail.
I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't specify those myself. I'm on the architectural portion.
No,
But that's something I can always verify with our engineering team to verify. If we need to provide additional requirements, they can look at getting that specified.
I think the water and sewer will, and folks from River Crest may have some recommendations on that. That is the basis of the changes basically here is the fact that adding that one area onto the existing service building in the back and then doing some relocation, I think of are they adding another one or is it just?
Currently, are you talking about the connexes?
Yeah, is they moving it or? are
There's
they adding
currently
another one?
there's currently 2 on site and we have looked at relocating, the one that's being relocated, we have looked at putting it further back on site. But due to the grade change, we're having to move it away from the building to where we have it proposed with the fencing.
Okay. All the rest of them are behind the building, so they're not visible?
Correct.
Okay.
And then all the other little outlying buildings or they're not really buildings, they're like fenced in areas.
Okay. So.
Any other questions from the commission?
Like to see a fire hydrant back there. The only fire hydrant out there is at 62 and the main entrance on the east side. So if there was an incident there, we'll shut the whole parking lot down. You have no gas pump, no nothing. We have to lay a hose through that parking lot. So I don't know if you're gonna be doing any modifications to the water line. And if you are, and if we could put in a hydrant, it'd be wonderful. Back there by that building.
I have to verify with Loves wants to go through the expense and if our
That would, yeah, because that would have to be on theirs and they would have to have it tested and everything because we ran into that situation.
Just a
unfortunately, with-
recommendation. I'm just telling you.
Yes.
I'm
I
telling
understand
you
what
what's
you're
gonna
saying.
happen if you have an incident. So
Okay.
that's the reason I asked about the sprinkler. So,
This is a metal building?
yes.
Correct. Currently, the existing's metal building, but we're doing a standard steel framing and
Brick
wall
facade.
infills in between. So it is metal still. It's not gonna go to wood construction or anything.
Okay, so are there I realize you got trucks in there that can blow up, but the building itself, is it got flammables attached to it, or is it metal and metal?
It's metal and metal with
Insulation.
vinyl backed insulation.
Okay, so I guess insulation. Right?
Sure.
It's not needed.
Well, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about him storing 500 gallons of oil. And that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
You know, I
Good
mean,
point.
he's gonna have that in there.
Yeah.
And if something happens, you got a problem.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Is the storage tank right underneath where you change the oil?
The
Is it
oil
under the
water,
building?
are you talking about the oil water separator
Yeah.
or,
No.
or
Catch
the-
basin.
The catch basin? The catch basins are right underneath they're at the entrance of the building and they're also in the catch basin or in the oil pit itself. We have them labeled on, well, I don't know if those don't have the floor plan.
Mechanical does.
Okay. But no, the oil is actually stored in one of the conic or will be stored in one of the connexes, the one directly adjacent to the building.
Are you the guy to talk to about the oil water separator?
I can answer basic questions, but I don't have 100% answers. That again, that's handled by our mechanical team.
But your understanding is they are going to propose a water oil separator?
Yes, we will propose an oil water separator on site. It's listed, it shows directly where it's at. It's this piece of equipment right here in this, in the additional space. That's the oil water separator location.
Where does the separated water get stored?
That I do not know 100%. I do apologize. I know some of it gets trenched over into this area, but that's outside of my expertise. That falls onto our civil and mechanical teams.
They've reviewed the mechanical drawings, so they'll have some, like I said, they'll have something to bring in on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what Love's had to say about it.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have the answers to that. That's just outside of my expertise on this.
Any other questions? Thank you. Silas or one of y'all want to talk to us about water separation in the oil?
State your name,
Yep, Silas Trailer.
raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth.
Swear to tell the truth.
Okay.
And for record, I'm operations
Is that a
supervisor.
yes, or did he just, did he just repeat me? Okay.
Remember last time? Okay, so on the oil water separator, and in the drawings that I have, it shows it being a single wall tank. So Calvert City Water and Sewer would require a secondary measure for, for containment, whether that's a dual wall tank or, wherever we see fit, or, we'd like to see a plan for, secondary containment. The reason on that is because where Love's is, they're in my WAPA 3, which is part of my wellhead protection area, but they're borderline in the WAPA 2, which comes with a lot more restrictions. So the area is right over the top of our aquifers, and that is a very big concern. On the separated water, from the plans that I saw, it looks like the separated water is going to get pumped to my sanitary system. Normally, we don't allow that. Other facilities here in Calvert that have oil storage, oil water separator, just an oil tank, they pump it out. and just, have it set up on routine, where a
Okay.
truck comes by and pumps it out. If we do go the route to accept that water, that'll make them, we'll have to have a pre-treatment, contract with them and pre-treatment program, which would require sampling. And that gets pretty costly,
Right.
over the years. Doesn't cost the city anything because I expect Love's to pay for that
Right.
cost, but that would require sampling. The last thing I want is one drop of oil getting in my sewer system.
Right.
That's bad for us, very bad. So after reviewing the plans, those are my 2 points, is that I want a secondary containment for the oil water separator. And also, I don't really want the separated water. If we do go that route, it will be a pre-treatment program. And once we get into the pre-treatment program, of course, that's regulated by the state and then also federal EPA. So it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of work, but it is doable. So, questions, concerns?
And your concern, Silas, that's being addressed back to Love, so they're gonna take care of, I mean,
Yeah,
Maybe
we have sent
Okay.
them recommendation.
Okay.
letter, So,
Have they responded at all to the double wall tank? I remember going through a long
I-
negotiation with
Speedway.
across the street.
Right.
And I assume that the city will have virtually the same requirements of Love's that they have Speedway.
yes,
Has Love's been made aware of that, and have they reacted or responded at all yet?
we did send them, to my knowledge, we did send them the letter, that our engineers prepared for us, stating that we
Right.
would, we would require double wall tank. I haven't had any conversations with them on that. And on the separated water, I haven't had any
Okay.
conversations with them on that as well. But
And just because all this is going on the record, didn't we require Speedway to have a double wall tank and a liner?
I cannot answer that. I do know that
I
Speedway,
think so.
Because there was an issue.
Is it above ground?
that's below
No, it's
ground.
below ground.
Mhm. I do know for a fact that Speedway installed double wall tank and impermeable liner because I inspected it, but I was not part of the conversations on
Okay.
what we required.
That is in fact what's there.
That is, I can assure you 100% because I inspected it on a weekly basis, and it is double wall tank and also an impermeable liner that's down inside.
Gotcha.
Yes, but on what was required, I cannot answer that.
I think that rings a bell with me too. That was one of the things that.
Because that was
that's what we Go back and do
Well,
because
anytime you're out
of this
there-
wellhead.
That's right. Anytime you're out there over the wellhead, you get a mistake of any kind, you just shut the city down.
Right.
But we're just gonna avoid that at all costs.
They put in a single wall tank above ground in a containment? The dike?
I mean, I
I
would
mean,
be,
is that the same thing as a double wall below the ground?
I would be fine with that.
I know that's what we did
If
at
it was-
plants. We had
Yeah.
above ground tanks in a containment.
Yeah, and that, I believe that would meet the requirements for my wellhead protection area. I would be fine with that as long as, whenever you do that, you stand the chance of it filling up with rainwater.
I agree. I agree.
So have it covered with a roof or
Something.
make sure the rainwater stays pumped out of it and make sure the rainwater doesn't come into my sewer
Yeah,
system.
you got to test the rainwater.
I mean, I just question.
Questions, concerns? Not gonna hurt my
If
feelings.
you do the above ground though, they're gonna have to pump that out, other than that it's gonna get drained on the ground,
What
right?
we-
Water, yeah,
Yeah,
if you put a containment for an above ground system, that water will have to be pumped out
It would
somewhere.
have to go somewhere. And if it's
Yeah.
rainwater, I mean, it's no big deal, but
Well, I mean,
what says you're not gonna have
a mixture,
residual?
that's
Right.
exactly what I'm thinking, yeah.
Yes.
Trying to remember back, didn't we have discussions with Speedway and Roger had concerns about that tank, the elevations and all with it floating out? Remember that? How was that addressed? Or
They have addressed that in the
They
plans.
have,
They have like concrete dead mans that are gonna be down there and strapped to it. So
Okay.
on any flotation, they have addressed that.
okay.
You know how big the water line is going back to that building?
Not my water.
I know it's not your water. I was just testing. I was testing your right there. I know it's not your water. I wish it was your water, but it's not. No, been down that road before, so. Okay.
Any other questions for Silas? Thank you, Silas. Appreciate it.
Chad, can you come up? You have a copy of a letter from Rivercrest.
Yes.
This is Chad McCann from Rivercrest. With this, if you will, state your name.
Chad McCann, Rivercrest Engineering, I signed the letter, Charles McCann.
You swear to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is your letter that they have. Okay, I just want to let for the record. And what were your recommendations, sir?
Recommendations based on our review, you see there, as part of our review, specifically, we were asked to look at that underground storage tank system and the water separator, and then also the impacts to the groundwater protection plan, wellhead protection plan areas. So in looking at that, you can see my bullet points put together there on the first page with our recommendation. On the second page, it doesn't have a lot of definitives in that letter, I will say that, but there are a lot of different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, as well, with these storage tank type of applications. So Silas pretty much ran through the majority of the things on the first page with the reference to the area being adjacent to zone 2, which would be the more critical zone here. The Love site is already listed in the city's plan as being a potential contaminant source. So it's already been named as one that would be on the radar, so to speak, one we would be concerned with if there was an issue at the site. Single wall tank, we did note that there are applications where you can do a double wall tank, or as you mentioned, underground with containment. You can do above ground with containment, but I imagine they may have issue with that because they'd have to take it from underground, pump it into the above ground tank, and then be tasked with getting that to drain to the front of the buildings and they have pump it twice. So not say it couldn't be done that way. It could very well could be done that way. They just may have issue with them pump it twice. As far as the let's see here, the elevations themselves, I just thought that was important to note. They got about 5 inches of difference between the grade of where that the tankage is going to sit and the base flood elevation for the site. So there would have to be some controls in place, just operational controls we recommend to have. If something does happen, we do get that flood event, and that system is then shut down, so we don't have that cross contamination potential in that area. It does have some venting over the top of it, but that's putting a whole lot of faith and trust in PVC can prevent structure. Flood event will happen. On the back page, most of that stuff is just pulled directly from the administrative regulations that speak to secondary containment and leak controls and those type of systems. So those lead into our recommendation that we put on the last page, which lead into the things to the nature of the secondary containment. We feel that that's definitely recommended for these systems. Another good thing, a good standards of practice, good practice is having a leak detection system or some formalized sampling program, as Silas had mentioned, for as you would do with a standard grease trap. Testing protocol, people come through, they test it, they want to see when the grease traps are pumped. Similar situation here, we want to see your testing records, make sure that the system is getting pumped adequately, make sure your filters and your overflow baffles are working properly, so you're not leaking that oil, leaching that oil over into the sanitary system if that connection is allowed through this process. Again, those are options, but those are all things that we would recommend as good standards of practice, and it would be the board's decision and discretion as far as which ones to require. You guys also mentioned some of the requirements that were done on the folks across the road there. I'm not, apologize, I wasn't familiar with that. I wasn't part of that process and review. But I do understand that they did have some kind of, they definitely had secondary containment. They might have had extra containment.
Yeah, there was a line of And I think it was a double wall with liner, if I'm not mistaken. We can verify that with you all, but I'm almost positive it was a double wall with, well, you saw it, it was double wall with liner, right?
Is it impermeable line?
Yeah. That's what Roger required. That's what the city required. That was his recommendation, but that's what the city required.
But I think though, for our review, I mean, even when we were doing Speedway, we did pretty much the same way, that our approval was based upon them getting something agreeable with our water and sewer, our water and sewer group. So,
Yeah.
and I think that'd be the same, would be the same caveat here. So Silas is happy with that, because I mean, that would be the biggest thing I think that we'd be concerned about, is what's happening with that water and oil. So,
That and moving I'm still going to ask for a new site plan and showing the new location of the dog park. Make sure it's out of the right of way. Or I'm going to ask that you all do that. I can't force anything. That's what I'm asking you all for on that one. And they've already made arrangements for that. I just need something, once that it's approved, that's what it shows.
Okay.
So.
Y'all have any other questions regarding my bullet points or letter? Review that
Thank you, Chad. Any other questions or comments?
Not until the discussion.
Well,
Saving it.
we'll close the public hearing then and reconvene our regular meeting. Got the minutes from the last meeting there in the packet. It's approval of the commission.
Make motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Motion
I'll
to
second it.
second by Gary. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed by like sign? So that brings us up to our considering the development plan for Loves. We have there, so. Questions, comments, ideas?
I got a few.
Okay.
So as far as the dog park goes, it's a state right of way, so I just didn't know what
We have to maintain it.
so we have to maintain
It's part of
it.
our contract, because they went out there, we have to maintain it.
Got it. So that's
So
my
I
first
don't want
question.
to have to deal with that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that that was within our jurisdiction. Second one is, I guess, what is our responsibility as far as the wellhead protection? As considering the development plan? I mean, obviously, what we're looking at and what they're required to do and what our decision-making process would be in regards to that. Like if we're like, we would be the decision makers on like, yeah, you have to do X, Y, and Z, or is that the utility?
Well, it's like we did last time. Yeah,
That's us.
we can set conditions.
So that's
We
part
can-
of the
we
development
can-
plan?
We
Yeah,
can
we
set
can
the
do that.
conditions based on acceptance of the conditions
That's
by the
correct.
utility.
Gotcha, okay.
And of course, floodplain
Yeah, okay.
issues as well. So those are other issues that we still have to take, because if they, if they approve the lawnmower, no big.
Yeah.
But if they don't approve it, then it changes their their plans, and they may have to elevate.
Got it.
Or floodproof. They don't necessarily have to elevate, they can floodproof in a non-residential environment, so.
But our plan, our wellhead protection area ordinance requires approval of water and sewer. So yes, you guys are the ultimate approval of the plan. But as part of that approval, they have to get approval of water and sewer.
Got it.
It's contingent on
It's
water and
contingent
sewer.
on water and sewer's approval. So they gotta really have to approval both.
Both, got it.
And because this group, with due difference to the one engineer we have here, we're gonna defer to you guys to tell us whether this is adequate or not. And let me also just tell everybody, consistency here in application is everything.
Yes, I would agree with that. too.
Speedway, Roger worked his tail off to make sure that we didn't create a problem with the Speedway situation and be begging for disaster to require anything else in this situation, because frankly, this one is considerably closer to our actual W2
Yeah.
area than the speedway
Right.
system. So that's critical. And so we're gonna have to rely on the engineers to tell us, yes, that's as safe, and does the job, and
Even if it's as overkill.
right.
Right.
If it's
Well,
Right,
above
right.
what-
And
Even
yeah,
above the
I
standards.
would say the precedent is
consistent with what we
somewhat
got.
set.
Yeah, I
So
think so.
what we need to make sure is we don't go below that precedent. We need to at least require, and then again, I know Silas, that's your area, but you know, my feeling would be that we make sure that we require at least what we did across the street. And then we've got those Ts crossed and Is dotted. So
Yeah.
Chad and Silas, when y'all review that, I'd highly recommend looking at what we did over there and then see how that folds into what we're trying to do here too.
So we need to have Love's engineers that work on the mechanical in contact with Silas and Chad so that they know what they need to be addressing.
Right.
So.
But you guys really don't even get the question until water and sewer had approved it.
that's
Right.
Yeah.
As far y'all as the building itself and the changes there, any issues, any questions you have there?
Elevation is behind you on the board for you, a better view in front of you as you go, depending on your seating. Well, this is the actual building itself, the main building, but the building on the left side, the drawing on the left side is the building in addition that they're discussing this evening.
I hate to be so ignorant, but is it an addition to an existing building? or is it
Yep.
a new
Yes.
building?
It's an addition to the existing building.
Okay,
They have a tire changing
Have a
center
tire-
back
we
there in the
did-
back and
We
they're
did the
adding
tire
on
change.
okay.
that.
Yeah, I remember doing the tire changing facility.
Say they're adding just another bay basically to that building.
Is it aesthetically satisfactory? I mean, I would expect Love's to make it aesthetically satisfactory, but is it to you guys?
Yes.
I think it's gonna look exactly like the other.
And
So
basically
just like the other building, yeah.
looks like the shop, same as the other piece of shop, but- which is far enough back on the
Brick
lot.
facade or
Third
whatever.
door.
No, that will, not on the back building. This is the main building. There's no changes here, really. I just had this as part of it. This is the actual addition here to the other building. So it's just basically putting in
Oh,
They're just adding just one more
just
bay.
a tire changing bay,
okay. I got you.
oil changing bay.
But it's-
Well,
it's-
they got two doors now,
This
one
has
on the third
nothing,
door.
this has nothing to do with
That
the
has
project.
nothing, yeah, it's just.
He just made that first.
Okay, now I ask.
I said, they're expanding the building to put that bay in. They're not just putting the door in the existing building.
No, that's correct.
Right.
Yes. That's
They're just
that's
putting
an
it
addition.
off to the right hand side. Yep.
Okay.
That all looks fine.
Doesn't have to fit for the guy that's changing the wall to get down in or whatever.
Is it
Yeah.
purely automotive or is it also semi,
It's all semi.
It's all semi.
all semi?
All semi. I assume that, is that not correct? Because it's just tractors, right?
Yeah, oil changing in the
They're not
addition.
doing it for automotive, just
No,
automotives.
no automotives, it's all truck care.
It's all inside the building, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we got the floodplain, the sanitary, the oil removal and the water separator. And the dog park, is there anything else that you guys can think of on this that you've got?
Well, John, you mentioned about the Connex. So do we need to think about that?
It's already proposed.
Okay.
It's I mean, you've long ago said it was okay as an accessory structure.
Okay, and they're just gonna relocate it and relocate the fencing
They're gonna
around
put
the new.
fencing around it because it won't be behind the building. It'll be outwards in view, and that's why they're putting the hiding fencing around it, to block the view.
So again, another nice precedent to take note of.
I'm pleased that they prevented that without even having to be
Yes,
asked about it,
yes.
so. yeah.
So what
Thank you,
actions
Robert.
are we in need of? Are we in need of actions?
Not tonight, just give him some direction so he can take it back and work on it.
Will you be
I mean, do you see
providing-
anything other than that you want to address? Anything that you want them to address, that we haven't discussed already?
I just want to verify, will you all be providing a email or a letter with the comments addressing this, correct?
Well, basically, what's being addressed is from Rivercrest. There, that's the biggest thing right there.
Okay.
You've already addressed. So what you'll need to do is also an updated site plan showing the new location,
Okay,
the dog park as well, because that's what'll be approved. And then, of course, the information that you'll have from your floodplain permit. And those are the things at this point that are just what we need to address.
okay.
Okay.
And you need to report to them that they just have to work with with water and sewer department, because this group can talk about dog parks and lighting and
Yeah.
paint, but until the water and sewer aspects, particularly the separation of water and oil and how you're gonna deal with all that mess, until that's approved by water and sewer, this group really is not gonna have any reason to look at it.
All we're gonna say is
That's
water
the
and sewer.
showstopper.
Pretty much.
Darren, is there any concern on the fencing that they're recommending around the Connex? I don't know, I don't see that shows up anywhere in any of the drawings. Could we get a detail of that,
Here just a minute.
or is there a detail that shows that?
It does.
We
Okay,
don't have a detail yet.
Okay.
The development plan was just more of
Yeah.
a rough layout to get comments and get it
Understand.
addressed. The type of fencing we would use is gonna be similar to what's around the trash compactor enclosure.
okay.
Which
So
is
it's,
Vertical plank.
vertical plank, okay.
I believe it's called Trex.
But it's a complete enclosure. You can't see behind it, or if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they've got panels of vertical board fencing.
Very nice.
So when you get your approval from them and you've got your final drawings together and you come actually present, here's what we're proposing, then they can give you a checklist.
yeah,
Okay.
So arbitrary, it wouldn't be particularly meaningful.
Okay. Sounds good.
Do we postpone, well, I've already had the hearing, do we just set it up for them to come back at a later date to talk with them?
Yeah.
Without having to go through another public hearing, correct?
Don't have to go through another public hearing,
I didn't think so, but I just want to verify.
because all we're doing at this point, we've got the basic development plan, and now we're just refining the development plan. And we can't really set another hearing now because we don't know how obstinate Silas is gonna be.
he is a trailer. I mean,
You know,
just saying.
we just got some hoops to jump through. to
Yeah.
figure out how you're gonna.
Yeah, that's right.
Because really, from a design standpoint, Love's has got some decisions to make
Mhm.
as to which procedural route they want to follow, what's gonna be most profitable, and then they can put their proposal together.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you need, John?
No, sir, that's all I have for this evening.
All right. Anything for anybody else? Your motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Darren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 6:18.
That's what they don't need.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be leftovers.
That's what our friends come back.